Norm, I traveled and I've always been a traveler, right? So, frequent flyer mile, et cetera, person. And I got grounded, for 2 years. And I candidly thought that I would agree with what you have put up here on the post-pandemic, but I don't know if I do. Number one, I have 4 major clients right now and a couple others that are pending. But so I'm a hired gun, right? I'm this executive consultant. I get hired by large. So Hydro-Quebec is one of them. Hydro-Quebec subsidiary, and I work for their subsidiary called Evlo Energy, which is a battery energy storage company. I'm going up to Montreal, as we talked about on Tuesday. So with that said, Canada, and specifically Hydro-Quebec, since they're affiliated with the government, was probably more conservative or more cautious as it relates to the pandemic and how people come back to work, et cetera. But there has been a recent shift, and pretty predominant shift, of trying to get people back into the office. And so you're seeing a shift now of trying to get people to come back into the office to collaborate. So that's one. So again, post-pandemic, 36 I don't know. I also have some very close friends in the financial industry, and one, a CEO of and I'll tell you a true story here. CEO, I'm not going to name the company, but a CEO in private equity. He has roughly 60 employees, got an office here in Boston and down in New York, and it will be opening an office in Miami. And with that said, he had an accountant last week that they offered a job to. And he told him the job is in the office. And this guy said, can I do some remote time? He said, how much remote time? He goes, I only want 3 days in the office. Okay. And Dan said, I can't promise you that. And the employee said, then I'm not going to take the job. And Dan said, sorry. And the job's no longer offered. So we're seeing a shift. And a shift is really focused on the collaboration, the team meetings, the in-person, where you can get more out of it, specifically as it relates to projects, creativity, client management, et cetera. As I've said to a few of my friends, the party's over. So,
and what do you think about that's great insight. So what do you think?
Those, again, everything I gave you is real, okay? Yeah. Real clients, real companies, they're doing this. So to everybody out there, you really got to drill down and learn, because what I gave you is real information. So,
and it's great. And so what do you think about this idea too? So for those places, and there are some, right, where they've allowed people to reduce, as you say, 3 days a week or 1 or 2 days a week, and usually it's maybe people that aren't as senior. But one of the things that's kind of coming back is if you do opt for that option, if it's given for you, you're really giving up opportunities for promotion, for success, because you may be able to keep your kind of current job, but like Jon is in the office 5 days a week with his manager, and sure, we're sharing some stuff, but Norm is out in California, zooming in and coming in once a month. That really, for any progression and promotions, you clearly have an advantage. So what do you think about those, for people that do have that option? Is it a disadvantage if you do take it?
You want my honest opinion?
This is just for the MBA students. It doesn't go public.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, out of sight, out of mind. Look, I've run companies, my whole life. And the last year I've been this hired gun, but last few years I've been a hired gun. But the old out of sight, out of mind. The people that were remote that worked for me, and I had many, especially when you have a sales team, right? Because they can be remote. They've got a territory. But many times you said, come in. Well, I can't come in because of family or whatever. Well, you're not there. You're not in there, and you call in before all this new technology developed. You'd call in, but you still were not there. So there's no question that out of sight, out of mind happens, because again, I found it when I was in Montreal 2 weeks ago. Just the fact that we could go down the hall and talk to somebody. It was just like the old days. And, I didn't have to schedule it. I didn't have to try to get them on a phone or try to set up a Zoom or team meeting. So the point being is, I do think that hurts. But again, it's dependent on the organization. Because I don't know if you saw, Salesforce had their big dream show last week in San Francisco, and Jim Cramer's a big advocate of it. And they have pushed to keep everybody remote. And so that, but they do have pods set up where you can go and you know, et cetera, et cetera. So those type of organizations, if you want, you know, I think it can be successful. It's highly technical. And they're trying to push the remote activity and provide all those tools. As you know, they bought Slack, right? And Slack is a wonderful tool. I used to use it when I was working for a company in London. Kiwi Power was subsidiary of Engie. So the point being is Slack was a great tool. And so they're pushing the remote. But that's one unique organization. But I think, and again, if you're like battery energy storage company, we're trying to get people together to collaborate, to talk about technology, to talk about improved processes, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I think out of sight, out of mind. I'm not saying that person won't get the promotion, but it's less likely. The probability factor, and we're all under that, right, in the business school, right? Probability factors. I think it's a higher probability if you're in the office at least a little more often, where you can touch, communicate, walk down the hall, be available, versus remote. So
yeah, no, I think it's a very good point. Great. Thank you, John. Those are really good insights. And obviously having led many organizations, that's great.
well, let's start with the crypto side first. I think I never invested in it. Jamie Dimon was with the SEC and in front of the Finance and Banking Committee with the House and Senate this past week also. I don't know if you all saw it, but and he said he would never advise, never invest in any type of cryptocurrency. So the question I think we all have to ask one another is what you and I went through, Norm, was the .com bubble. Is the crypto the .com bubble? I'm not sold on it yet, but it doesn't mean it won't happen, because .com happened. It just blew up because a lot of things were crazy early on. I think the beauty of this process is now it's when you go through such a peak and now such a loss or a decline, is you kind of get your act together, right? I will tell you this: blockchain is here to stay, because what it does is improve processes. Okay, it improves processes. So again, as business leaders, business managers, you are all getting your degrees. Blockchain is here to stay, because it does is it cuts things out to try to improve processes. Right now, of course, it was attached to the digital currency, but eventually it can go and really move into manufacturing and cut out some of those layers. And the SAPs and the Oracles, which I've, you know, frankly, if you ever use their systems, they're cumbersome, they're difficult. Blockchain could come in and slice that. And I'm really convinced the blockchain is here to stay, but it may not necessarily be in currency as much. It will have to be in currency, because you'll have to have that mechanism behind the scenes, but it is definitely going to move into other areas, specifically, I believe, into the manufacturing and trade side to improve efficiency. So I think the answer is yes on blockchain. It's huge. It's a big issue, especially, again, I'm an energy geek, you know, and so I'm dealing with utilities, and you're seeing it loud and clear, because the utility industry, you know, has a lot of folk in that, and the white folk in the 45, 50, 55, 60, 65-year-old range. And there's a huge chunk of them, and they're retiring. The problem also is I call it, you know, from Survivor, but the tribal knowledge, that institutional knowledge, which is irreplaceable, candidly. How do you train people? How do you get people to want that knowledge? The other issue, of course, you're seeing is the folks up in that category, which I guess I'm one. We like utilities, we like energy, we like a lot of these things. I like gas turbines going around and around. I mean, there's a lot of people that really aren't into that stuff anymore. So you do see the change in how that's both from a interest level, a training, an educational level, and then obviously from a cultural perspective. I also have found that I have no issue, Norm, as you know, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. The new culture is not, is focused on, no, 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 no. Let's talk about my vacation time. Let's talk about my time off. I want to work from home. And, those things never crossed my mind over my career. And now that's the first thing out of people's mouths when I'm interviewing them or trying to converse them to help on a project or something. Now on the technology side, it's really interesting because they want to do, like you said, they want to text, they want stuff. And I'm like, I want a phone call. We're on a Teams meeting today. They sent me a link to a document. And I said, send me the document, attach it to a damn email so that I don't have to go into Teams. I don't have to run upstairs, get my cell phone, authenticate it to make sure everything's working. And then, it's enough already. It
Yeah.
seems to create sometimes more work than less work. Just attach the document to my email. Boom, I got it. Boom, I'll open it. Boom, I'll edit it, track my edits. Off it goes back to you. I don't have to do it in Google, or I don't have to do it in Teams, but they all want to do it in that because we can share the documents. Well, I can share it other ways too. And I can be more faster and more efficient. So there is that cultural gap. I've seen a shift in this too. So I would say that yes, absolutely unequivocally, there's been a shift. I'm an Amazon freak, the point is because it's easy. My entire Christmas list can be done on Amazon, and it drives people crazy that all the boxes show up. But I can do it. I can do it from anywhere on the road. It's just for me, that's an easier process. However, my wife hates to buy clothing online. She obviously forced to for 2 years, but then hates to. So she wants to go out and touch it. She wants to go to, whether it's TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Nordstrom's, wherever. She wants to touch it, see it, and she knows she can return it, right? And and in the ease of that. Recently happened, I asked her to buy me a suit jacket, and basically it was the wrong size, so she returned it, and she felt good about that, got her money. But the point being is, so there is a little bit of shift there. One of my, again, that buddy, that private equity buddy of mine, invested in one of these vending companies, and they went public, and he's done incredibly well. And so that seems to have resonated, especially in urban markets. Not as much. It's cracking. It's kind of like I said before. It's done. Some of this internet stuff is dying off in the suburban markets. Some of the suburban markets, because people do want to go out and socialize. They do want to go out and touch it. They do want to have a conversation, and they do want to shake a hand. Let me give you an example. Over the last 3 years, I've attended many conferences. We attended those online, right? And so when normally it would be 1,000 people, they try to do it online. It might have gotten to 1,500. And then the second year, when they did that same conference online, it was down to 500. Because as people, you were saying to me, I'm Zoomed out, I'm Teamsed out, I'm online out. It's hit its capacity with a human being. We need to get out to socialize, improve, interact. I just attended Renewable Energy Plus, RE Plus in Anaheim, California last week. I got home, as you know, Thursday night. The initial registration, they expected 20,000. Walk-ups took it to 23,000. The day of the event, it went to 26,000.
Wow.
26,000. It exceeded their expectation by 6,000 people. It became the largest renewable energy conference ever in North America. It was unbelievable. We were all, it was New York and Anaheim. Okay. And all I could tell you is everybody's back, shaking hands, hugs, having drinks, socializing, getting together. So I saw it with my own eyes. And it blew away everybody's expectations, let alone obviously the conference organizers. They were just amazed. So we're seeing, I think, a little bit more of that stuff come back, but there will always be a market for these type of products and services. Obviously, I think again, the basic retail, the Amazon stuff, but did you see their sales? Amazon sales? They're down. Did you also notice that they canceled 10 projects where they were building distribution centers?
I didn't know.
Buddy of mine,
Wow.
I went out a weekend earlier. Buddy of mine works for a large construction company, VP, and called Altman's out there. He's built 6 within the last 3 years. He's built 6 Amazon distribution centers, 1 to 3 million feet apiece. They've canceled the next 10.
Wow.
Canceled, gone. So again, the question I have is it starting to flip back again? I'm going to continue to use Amazon, but I'll tell you one thing: I will never, ever, ever buy a car through Vroom or any one of those services. I have a relationship with a general manager. I've known him for 15 years. I bought 11 cars there, no, 12. So I'm all set.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's if it's an experience that you don't want to have, like maybe going to the bank, then, or as you say, driving in and getting my 3 pairs of underwear that I know the size I want. But if it's something where I want to have the experience, like I'm jealous of your 26,000 person conference, I think that's it. And so you think of people moving back, and you look at the tourism numbers and the airline numbers, and cruise ships are back full and all those kind of things. So we're being maybe a little more selective. So if you do have a product offering that is mundane, or in some cases you might even say annoying, if you can remove that, but the ones that we really love, people are going back to them. I like how you characterize that. It makes a lot of sense. If you're
we did the online grocery shopping, the Amazon, the Whole Foods, and we have Stop and Shop Peapods. We went that route. And the produce wouldn't come right, and maybe we screwed up on the order. And my wife said, she got to a point, she's like, enough already. I'm done. This is my wife. I like the grocery shopping experience. I want to look at the fruit. I want to look at the produce. I want to go to my particular aisle. I want to ask questions to somebody. I want to go to the deli counter. So I think there's certain things. Now I have a sister-in-law who swears by the Amazon Whole Food experience. She buys turkeys and hams and everything. So she's had a phenomenal experience. Maybe we didn't have that experience. I will still do all my basic shopping through Amazon just because it's point, click, show up. And it's for a guy that travels a lot, it's convenient as heck.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, and you kind of think of like as you said, like the fruit versus the box of Cheerios. The box of Cheerios is pretty standard. You're not too worried about it, but you're right. You pick out meat, you pick out fruit, clothing, your example of your wife. So it's that product experience, which is kind of a real driver. That's well said. Really, really great. So, all right. Well, unless anything else you'd like to add, we can probably wrap it there.
Well, I think, you're number one, I'm so happy to everybody. I'm so happy Norm is involved with us. You cut me open, I'd be blue. I've got my blue shirt on there, but and I want to help and continue to help. I've been on this board of advisors 17 years. I've chaired it for, I don't know, 3, 4, or 5. So I've been through a bunch of deans. And you guys are in a very interesting time. We're a little bit at a crossroads, right? It's how digitized are we going to go versus getting back into, and I think we're going to find some balance.
Yeah.
And I think the pendulum went one way, then it's kind of slicking back. There's going to be balance. And so for all these efficiencies, the blockchains, as I said, will be, there will be that. The Salesforces, that technology, it helps me manage my day so much better. I mean, I was on Zoom calls, this and that, but so that's good. But again, as you know, I'm going to Montreal for 2 days of physical meetings. So the point being is, there's value associated with it, but where's that balance associated with that as we go forward? And as young as learners and soon to be MBA graduates, the world is your oyster. You get a really great opportunity to try to find that balance and help guys like me who are, little white, but try to change as much as I can find that balance because, it's, and there's just, I think, tremendous opportunity out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous.
Wonderful. Well said. Well, thank you, John, for your time tonight. And this
Thank
was
you.
really great. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon, and hopefully we'll have you back. So
Oh,
thank you,
I'd love
sir.
to come back. Love to come back. Love to see everybody in person. So,
Yes, we'll do that. We'll do that soon. Thank you very
okay,
much.
good. Thanks, Norm.